supporting children with English as an additional language.
So I'm Ian Brownlee. I'm the principal teacher of English and Additional Language. Our service supports nurseries and primaries and secondary schools across Aberdeenshire. We work with bilingual learners, and that can be children who just know a little of another language or a lot. So thinking about nursery in particular, it could be children who've been born here, or it might be children who have not been born here. Maybe they speak English and a bit of another language, or maybe they speak 2-3 other languages. Maybe both parents have different languages. So it can be all kinds of different scenarios. But our service works with families and with the nurseries to support the children with their language development. And so what would happen is in a nursery, if they find out that the mum or dad speak another language, they can refer to our service. There's a form that parents would sign and fill in, and it gives consent for us to work with them. I mean, what that looks like in nursery is not so much working with children, but supporting the nursery practitioners themselves, because we wouldn't be doing specific targeted support with children at that age. It's more about making sure that they've got the right advice and the right strategies to help the staff and to help families as well. So once we receive a referral, we would visit, do a little assessment with the children, see what their language is like, and see if they're listening, following instructions, or if they're not speaking yet, just how are they getting on. And then we would offer advice to them and to their parents as well, if we can. When families or their children are referred to our service, one of the things that often people maybe are surprised by is it's not just language that we advise support on, but it's also the wider picture, the bigger context. So if families have arrived from another culture, it's being culturally aware, and that's very important. If a family comes from a place where education is different to our system, it may be that they don't know that they can even access early years places. So that's the first step, making sure that families know that children start at that age. And then the second thing is also their understanding of what it is, because learning through play is a concept which wouldn't be shared in every culture. It's something that, in other countries, yes, but not in all other countries. So depending on where people have come from and their experiences, it might be that they need to learn about our system. And it's not to say that the way that they've learned things is the wrong way, it's just a different way. So things that we might expect as normal as well, like parental engagement, they may not be used to interacting with education providers at all. It might just be that they drop the kids off and that's it. Education is the school's job, it's not parents' job, and that's not a wrong way to look at things, it's just the way it's done in different places. Of course, that can't be true for everybody. So in some cultures, it might be the same as here as well. We don't know, but what you can't do is jump to the conclusion that parents will know what to do. You should be aware that there may be differences and maybe things need to be explained, or make sure that you share all the information and resources that you can with them to help them. Okay, so the language barrier is something to think about as well. And so in terms of pupils or children and parents, it's something to think about. For parents, we have translated comments available, and they came from Glasgow. So you would have them laminated in a folder, and you would point, and it has the English and the other language, so you can point to like, so-and-so bumped their head today, just look out for that, or there's a message about please remember to bring your wellies on a Wednesday. Or it might be that the parents point to one and it says, I'm not picking up today, it's going to be uncle, or something like that. So just routine stuff you can communicate easily. Also, there's telephone interpreting or face-to-face interpreting if you have parent sessions or anything where you think actually it would be useful to have somebody there with you. We can arrange that as well, just through our service. And the telephone interpreting is useful really for emergencies. If you had, a serious anything you need to contact parent quickly, then you can just dial and then they can phone the parent and you can have a telephone communication with an interpreter just for really important stuff. When it comes to communicating with the children themselves, I mean, obviously to start with, if they're new to English, they might even talk to you in their own language, and it might be hard for them, frustrating. Often behaviour can be an issue if they get frustrated with not being able to communicate. Sometimes after a while they realise that you're not understanding, and that's a step, and then maybe they don't speak at all. And a silent period is normal, where they just don't speak at all, they're processing, hearing the language. But how you can support their communication is really lots of good modelling, and they hear language in contexts. That's helpful for a start. But then things like the widget symbols can be helpful too. Again, remembering they have to be clear. Obviously, if there's somebody who shares the language, that's useful as well. Having things like dual language dictionaries. I haven't got one here to show you, but they would have lots of things that you would cover in nursery: colours, numbers, emotions, crossing the road, family, all these different words that you might be looking to talk about. And if it's coming to assessing how the children are doing, you can use those as a way to see if they know the words in their own language, because we would always say it's better for them to have home language developing at home. Parents use the home language at home, that's their best language, and then in school the English, or in nursery the English. So if you're able to say, yeah, they know colours and numbers in their home language, even if they don't have them in English yet, then it means that they should pick them up in time. We would be more concerned if they don't know them in their home language, because that means that they don't have a foundation to learn the English words on. So you can use resources like that to support assessment. When it comes to just communicating their needs, trying to teach the key vocabulary as a starting point, things like toilet and drink and those kind of words first, and you can play lots of little games with the objects and things to support that, but often the children will learn those quite quickly because they're using them in context and need them quite quickly. So having, as I said, visuals alongside is probably the best way for them to pick up those words, and making sure that they're using them lots. The more they use them in different contexts, the better. So thinking about maybe strategies more generally, supporting bilingual children as they start in the nursery. I mean, there's lots of things to think about. One is not to put them under any pressure. It's quite tiring coming into a new language environment, and there's lots to think about. Are the children familiar with not just the language, but new foods? Snack time might be different. Just the whole environment could be something they're not used to. And so it's important to make sure that parents know they should be explaining to their children what's happening, and that they will come and pick them up again at the end of the day. And also things like transition can be really difficult as well. If they don't know what's going to be coming, that can be very scary. If you're not understanding the language and all of a sudden everyone's putting their jackets on and going out somewhere, they might think, where am I going? Why am I going there? So having photographs and widget symbols as well, but photographs, anything which can communicate exactly what it is you're going to be doing, is really helpful. I always give the example of a little boy who the class were away to go outside for outside play, and they had widget symbols. It was a picture of some blue wellies, and then the boy started to cry, and it transpired that he was crying because he had red wellies, and he thought he was supposed to have blue wellies because it was on his card. So if you're going to go outside, a picture of the outdoor play area is probably a better visual than a picture of wellies, just to be absolutely clear. So things like that, visuals, are really useful. And gestures too, not just random gestures, but actually like going and standing at a place and picking up the thing that you want the children to do. Like if you're saying it, get your plate and get your knife, you go over to the snack cupboard and you hold up a plate and a knife. And it might seem a little bit silly to do that, but in the long term it's good, because you're using language in context and the kids get to see what the object is and hearing the language alongside it too. So there's gestures, and modelling language is good. Trying not to cut out the little words of sentences, things like go toilet now. We're tempted to do that to reduce it down, to make it easier, but you can keep sentences short but keep them grammatically accurate, because if we don't say them in the correct way, then that's what the children are going to learn. So it's better that they learn the correct structure of the language. So that's really important. I mean, really, nursery is a great place for children to learn language, because there's so much visual here, and they hear the language in context, so that's all very helpful for them. Things like, obviously, stories and music and rhyme, they're great for learning language. You can acknowledge the first language as well, though. Not to say you need to speak it fluently, but you could have parents come in and read to the children, or if you're based in a school, then you could have older children, if they're literate, coming in and reading as well with the children in the first language, and that exposes the other children in the nursery to different languages, which is good for them. And it's L1+2 in the schools and everything. It's looking for exposure to other languages, and it helps the other children in the nursery also realise that this child's not just babbling if they are using a language that's not English, but they are actually, saying real words. And if they hear a story in another language and then hear it in English, that might help them to understand a bit more too. And really, I mean, that's it really. You've got visuals and gestures, making use of the first language. You can get audiobooks in first language, which can be good because children can be really tired by the end of the day listening to another language all day, even all morning if it's just a session. But having like headphones and just chilling out with a story in first language can be really helpful. And things like nursery rhymes you can get in other languages too, and that really helps the children to relax a bit, because probably what will happen is if they're new to English, they might sit down at story time and pay attention for a minute but just lose focus, because it's hard enough to pay attention when it's English, but then if you don't understand the language, you can imagine they might start to kind of, and maybe start flicking things about and not be interested because they're not understanding things. But if they just get a little snippet, I'm not saying all the time, but just occasionally have a story in their own language, you're able to then see and assess, oh yeah, they can listen to a story when they understand what's going on. We can advise a range of different strategies. I could speak all day about that probably. But you can find, we have web spaces where you find a lot of our resources and pointers to more stuff, so people could contact us if they need to.